Mom, break the mate bond with Dad. My smile froze. Why? Kelly looked at me with a sympathy no child should ever have in their eyes. Dad doesn't love you or me. He only cares about James and his real mom. I've seen it all, even when you try to hide it from me. Last time Dad's alpha bonus came in, you wanted to use it to sign me up for summer camp. But Grace cried one tear, and Dad gave her every penny without a second thought. The time before that, on your birthday, Dad had a moonstone bracelet ready for you. But James made a fuss, and Dad handed it straight to Grace instead. He also keeps cutting your mate bond for no reason and kicking you out of the pack. Every time, he only lets you come back after you beg him. If you're only staying with Dad because of me, then I don't even want to be your daughter anymore. Before she even finished, tears were streaming down my face. That night, because Kelly ate the deer leg James loved, my alpha husband severed our mate bond for the 99th time and ordered me to leave pack territory and reflect on my behavior. In that moment, a sharp, ragged pain tore straight through my chest. My wolf let out a silent, anguished cry. Teach your daughter to learn to be considerate toward her older brother. Then maybe I'll restore the bond and let you back into the pack. Grace deliberately posted a taunt on the pack forum, which Luna has been mated for 5 years and still hasn't been accepted by the pack. So hard to guess. This time, as I watched my daughter gag and cry while trying to force that bite of deer meat back up for James, something inside me finally snapped. I put down my knife and fork, picked up my daughter, and said quietly, I'm done with this bond. I want nothing more to do with this family. Arthur paused mid-motion and narrowed his eyes at me. What did you say? I'm telling you, I want our mate bond severed for good. James lit up instantly. Dad, let her go. Then you can restore the bond with my mom. Arthur shot him a look. Focus on your food. James pouted, but he couldn't hide his excitement. He muttered under his breath, finally. Now my real mom can come back. For 5 years, James had never called me anything but hey or mean lady. And Arthur had never once corrected him. Arthur stared at me for a few seconds, then sighed and put down his knife and fork. What is it this time, Rebecca? Throwing a fit because I severed our bond? I said nothing. He let out a cold laugh. Kelly knew James loves that deer leg, yet she took it anyway. He's the alpha heir and her older brother. As the pack's Luna, you should be teaching your daughter to respect him, not throwing a tantrum. You have no Luna dignity whatsoever. Kelly shrank in my arms, her fingers gripping my sleeve tightly. I looked at the deer leg on Kelly's plate, barely one bite taken out of it, and felt anger burning in my chest. James always got the deer leg. Every single time. Just now, he'd said he was full, so Kelly took the last one. But the moment she took a bite, James started yelling, I was still going to eat it. Why did you take it? Arthur cut our mate bond without even asking what happened, hurting my already weakened wolf spirit again. This was the 99th instance. My silence only made the air around Arthur grew icy cold. His voice grew more threatening. If you showed James even half the affection you give Kelly, I would never have had to act this way. I just want you to treat them equally. Stop being so biased. I looked at Arthur and almost laughed. During my first year in the Blood Moon pack, James was only 5. He couldn't sleep at night and would cry for his mother. I was the one who held him every evening, reading bedtime stories until he drifted off. After Kelly was born, I was so afraid James would feel left out that I treated him even better than I treated Kelly. When they both got sick at the same time, I left Kelly with the pack housekeeper and took James to the pack hospital myself. I did everything I could. And yet, to them, I was never anything more than the biased stepmother. Enough. Stop making a scene. Tell Kelly to apologize to James and promise it won't happen again. I'll keep an eye on her behavior for a few days. If she does well, I'll restore the bond and let you back into the pack. Arthur announced his decision without any regard for how I felt. I saw the flicker of annoyance in his eyes and asked, my voice cold, Arthur, do you even consider me family? He froze. I kept going. If I'm really your family, then how can you keep cutting our bond and throwing me out of the pack over and over? He frowned, a trace of confusion in his eyes. It always worked out before, didn't it? Once you fixed your behavior, I let you back and restored the bond. Before? Yes, back then, I always admitted I was wrong and gave in. Because I loved him. I wanted to be his real family. Later, because Kelly was so small, I wanted to give her a proper family unit. But now, I was tired. This is the 99th time. Every time I do something James doesn't like, or your ex-wife doesn't like, you sever our bond without even asking what happened. But your ex-wife broke the bond with you 6 years ago, and she still lives in your pack. Arthur. Deep down, who do you truly consider your mate? Arthur's face darkened. Still on this silly petty jealousy? Grace is James's birth mother. She stays in the pack to stay present in his son's life. So they can stay in touch? I laughed till tears stung my eyes. And what about me? Every time you kick me out, I have to swallow my pride and fawn over them just to get you to let me back into the pack. Arthur, have you ever stopped to consider how all of this makes me feel? He said nothing. Suddenly, Kelly squirmed out of my arms and ran to the trash can. Dad, don't be mad at Mom. It's my fault. I'll give the dear leg back to James. As she spoke, she jammed her fingers down her throat and gagged. I rushed over and pulled her into my arms. Kelly! Don't do that. This isn't your fault. She sobbed in my arms, her little face bright red. James pointed at her and laughed. See, Dad? She's just copying that mean lady, always faking sadness to get her way. Arthur didn't move. He just frowned. See? This is what happens when you spoil her. She's already learned to manipulate adults like this. Not once did he ask Kelly if she was okay. But when James got a scrape in training, Arthur'd even walk out mid-elder council meetings just to rush to his side the pack hospital with him. When James stuck out his foot and tripped my Kelly, she smashed her forehead on the coffee table and blood poured down her face. Arthur barely glanced at her. Kids get bumps and bruises. Her healing will take care of it. I pushed those memories aside, picked up Kelly, and stood. Arthur thought I was about to give in. He leaned back in his chair. Take her upstairs and calm her down. Then come back, clean up the dining room, and help James finish his hunting drills. I didn't answer. I carried Kelly upstairs. Behind me, I heard James's gleeful voice. She's really mad? She's probably just pretending. My mom says she's the sneakiest person ever. Arthur sounded annoyed. Ignore her. Just let her stew for a while. A few minutes later, Arthur and the boys were in the living room playing Pack-Link out loud. James tattled to his grandma, Michelle. Grandma, that lady's stirring up more trouble again. Her daughter stole my dear leg, Dad said a couple of things, and now she's hiding in her room. She didn't even clean up the table. And she's saying she wants to break the bond. Arthur's father, Alexander, snorted. Her behavior grows more unbecoming by the day. She holds none of the bearing expected of our pack Luna. Grace's soft voice chimed in. Please don't be too harsh on her, Father. I'm sure she has her own troubles. I just hate seeing James get hurt in all this. Michelle's voice followed. What kind of troubles could she possibly have? She lazes around the house all day and can't even prepare a decent family meal. James is the precious alpha heir of this pack. He's growing. He shouldn't have to beg for a dear leg. She shows clear favoritism toward her own daughter. Things were much better when you were here. James said proudly, exactly, Grandma. She never does anything nice for me. Not like my mom. Mom always makes sure I have everything. Dad, when are you going to break the bond with her? My mom's waiting to restore the bond with you. Grace laughed. James, don't say that. Your father already has someone he's bonded to. She's not even part of this family. I'll never accept her. James shot back. I don't accept her. Arthur muttered something I couldn't quite catch. I leaned against the headboard with Kelly in my arms, a hollow emptiness settled in my chest. 5 years. I had done everything for everyone in this family. When Michelle's back pain flared up, I learned soothing medicinal meals from the pack healer and brought them to her house myself. When Alexander was in the pack hospital, I stayed by his bedside for a week, so exhausted I could have fallen asleep standing up. But not once did they ever thank me. Not once did they acknowledge me. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to listen anymore. Kelly gently tugged my sleeve. Mom, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken that dear leg. I looked down at her cautious little face, and my heart twisted sharply. Kelly, I said softly, what if we leave? She blinked. Where are we going? Somewhere you can have all the deer meat you want. She thought for a moment, then whispered, is Daddy coming with us? Do you want him to? She shook her head and buried her face in my chest. Daddy only loves James, not me. I held her tighter. Okay. Then it's just us. That night, Arthur didn't come back to our bedroom. Just like every time before, he wanted to leave me stewing, waiting for me to cave and apologize. But he didn't know that after 99 times, I was no longer willing to endure humiliation for myself or my daughter. The next morning, the alarm went off at 6 o'clock sharp. Normally, I would have jumped out of bed, made breakfast, ironed Arthur and James's clothes, and then woken them up. After they ate, I would walk James to the training grounds. But today, I just reached over, turned off the alarm, and went back to sleep with Kelly in my arms. When I woke up again, I checked my phone. It was already 8:40. The house was completely silent. A little while later, hurried footsteps pounded down the hallway. The bedroom door swung open, and Arthur stood there, hair disheveled, scrambling to button his rumpled shirt. Why didn't you wake us? James poked his head out from behind him, furious. It's all your fault. I'm running way behind, and my trainer's gonna lay into me hard. Arthur walked in, his face dark. You didn't even fix breakfast? Have you any idea how late it is now? I didn't move. I just stayed in bed, soothing Kelly, who had been startled awake. When I ignored him, his brows knitted together. Enough of this childishness. I'll reinstate our mate bond. Are you satisfied? He took a deep breath, and a faint golden glow flickered around him, the unmistakable aura of an alpha exercising his pack authority. He held out his hand, palm up, his voice deep and commanding, echoing through the silent room. I, Alpha Arthur Hale of the Blood Moon Pack, swear before our ancestors and the Moon Goddess. I accept Rebecca as my one and only mate, my Luna. I vow to share my blood, my land, and all I have with you. Now. Accept my bond. As the oath ended, a faint hum vibrated through the air. That broken, withered silver bond lunged out of the void like a starving serpent hunting for its prey, desperate to wrap itself around my heart again. It was pure instinct, pain and longing all at once. But I just stared at him coldly. The man who had cut this bond with his own hands 99 times. I held Kelly tighter, lowered my head, and right in front of him, I tore apart the bond that was trying to reconnect. Arthur's hand froze in midair. His calm expression finally shattered, replaced by shock and rage. You. He didn't get to finish. James cut him off. Dad, I'm starving, and we're already way behind schedule. Arthur shot me one look, then turned and slammed the door so hard the walls shook. A moment later, I heard pots and pans clattering in the kitchen, along with James's whining. After a while, Arthur pushed the door open again, his voice ice cold. James's training schedule changed today. Parents have to go with them. I have an important meeting, so I can't make it. You go. I refuse. Ask his birth mother to attend to him. I have personal matters to attend to. His face darkened. Personal matters? What possible plans could you have that outweigh pack duties? I got out of bed and started picking out clothes for Kelly. I'm taking Kelly back to my birth pack. His expression went rigid. Rebecca, have you lost your mind? You're really going to blow this up over nothing? I didn't answer. I kept getting Kelly dressed. James called for him from outside. Arthur stared at me for a few seconds. You intend to persist with this nonsense? Very well. I'll wait to see how you resolve this mess on your own. Then he left with James. I didn't care what he did. I went to Kelly's room and packed her things. I had just finished packing and was about to leave Blood Moon territory with Kelly when my phone rang. I picked up. The voice on the other end was urgent. James got hurt at the training ground. Get to the pack hospital. What happened? Today's drill was Guardian Pup partnered training drills. He wandered off during partnered drills and badly injured his leg. I'm tied down with urgent pack business and cannot leave. I said, let his real mom go. I'm not his real mother. There was a pause. Then the voice shot up. Rebecca. What is wrong with you? This accident could have been avoided if you'd fulfilled your expected duties today. Now he's hurt, and you won't even go see him? Standing there in the sun, I almost laughed. Arthur, you've always accused me of being indifferent toward him. Since I'm already branded as cold, I'll give you a true taste of my indifference. I hung up and looked down at Kelly. Come on, sweetheart. Mommy's taking us home. Kelly nodded quietly. I took my daughter's hand and got into the car I'd booked. We left Blood Moon territory without any trouble, crossed the Silver Mist Woods, and arrived at Windhowl Pack, my birth pack, in Moonstream Valley. The moment I stepped out of the car, a gentle warmth filled my chest. My weakened wolf felt stronger almost instantly. Rebecca. Kelly. I turned to the familiar voice. My mother stood there with tears in her eyes. My father, always so stern, had a look of quiet pain on his face too. I fell into my mother's arms. My father scooped up Kelly. And the tears I'd been holding back since I left Blood Moon finally came pouring out. Mom. Dad. My mother held me tight. My poor girl, you've endured far too much heartache. My father held Kelly close, his jaw tight. That foolish alpha shall answer for failing to treasure the one who stood by him. At the pack hospital, the sharp smell of disinfectant hung in the air. Arthur stared at his phone after hanging up, his face dark. The dead tone rang in his ears. He looked back at James, whining in the hospital bed, and at Grace sitting beside him, gently feeding him water. The empty void left by her severing our bond ached with biting, hollow cold. Dad, did that woman snap at you just now? James pouted. I knew she was rotten from the start. You finally see it now, right? Kick her out and let my mom come back. Grace quickly handed James some water and said softly, James, don't talk like that. I'm certain Rebecca simply had an unexpected emergency come up. After all, your father already went to get her. Her words, so reasonable, so understanding, only made Arthur more irritated. He tugged at his collar and tried to reach out through the mate bond. But all he found was silence. Before, the moment he reached out, her heartbeat would answer right away, warm and soft like a trusting pup. Now there was nothing. Dad, my leg hurts. I want to go home. This place stinks, James whined. Go fetch that woman and make her wait on me hand and foot. Get her back? Arthur thought of the cold, empty look in Rebecca's eyes earlier. He had never seen her like that. He stood up abruptly, ignoring James's shouts, and strode out. Arthur, where are you going? Grace called after him. Back to the house, he said, his voice rough. When he drove back to the empty house, all he found was silence. No hot dinner waiting in the dining room. No sound of Kelly's laugh. No quiet figure tidying up. He ran upstairs to their bedroom. Half the closet was empty. On the dusty vanity table lay the moonstone bracelet he'd given her last year, the only thing she'd left behind. In that moment, his alpha aura shattered out of control. Every window in the house rattled. He finally understood. The woman who always crawled back to him, no matter how many times he threw her out, this time, she was really gone. For the next 3 days, an eerie, tense mood settled over the entire pack. On the first day, Arthur shut himself in his study, burying himself in mountains of paperwork to numb his unease. He told himself Rebecca had just gone back to her natal pack home. Like so many times before, she would come back once she cooled down. After all, she was his Luna. What other place did she even have to turn to? He even caught himself thinking that when she returned, he'd teach her a lesson for forcing me to chase after her. On the second day, dread crept up and twisted his chest tight. He opened a channel to his in-laws' house, intending to use his alpha authority to demand they send her back. But the voice that answered was Ethan Brooks, alpha of the Windhowl pack and Rebecca's father. His words were cold and final. "Arthur, my daughter broke her bond with you. She has severed all ties with your Blood Moon pack. Windhowl territory does not welcome any guests from Blood Moon, least of all the alpha who broke her heart." The call cut out instantly, leaving a shrill dial tone ringing in his ears. Arthur gripped the receiver until his knuckles went white. He couldn't understand it. The woman who had always obeyed him, who had always bent over backward to accommodate him, how could she be so final? How dare she? By the third day, James's temper had hit its peak. No Rebecca hovering by his bedside to change his bandages and feed him. No Kelly shyly offering him candy to cheer him up. Grace stayed by his side, but she wasn't Rebecca. With one fewer person to wait on him, James flew into rages at the servants over the smallest things. He even smashed Arthur's treasured antique wine glasses. "I want my mom. I want that woman to come right back and wait on me hand and foot," James screamed, rolling on the living room floor. "Dad, you said you kicked her out. Why isn't she back yet? She's supposed to take care of me." "Enough." Arthur slammed his hand on the coffee table, sending tableware clattering loudly. All his pent-up fear and anger finally burst out. "Her name is not to be spoken again." James froze at his father's outburst, then burst into tears, screaming that he was going to tell his grandmother. Arthur rubbed his temples, exhausted. But memories of the old days kept flooding into his mind. Every time James cried, it was Rebecca who rushed over first, holding him patiently, soothing him. And Arthur would just sit on the sofa, watching coldly, even thinking she spoiled the boy too much. He finally understood. The woman who had held both him and his son so carefully in her hands had long since grown cold, worn down by disappointment after disappointment. Arthur started searching for Rebecca like a madman. He used every alpha privilege he had to track her energy signature. But all he found was emptiness. She hadn't just left, she had utilized an ancient werewolf craft to seal off all spiritual connection, cutting off all his ability to sense her. He swallowed his pride and dialed her number, the one he knew by heart. The phone rang for so long he thought she would just ignore him. Finally, she picked up. In the background, he could hear Kelly's bright, happy laugh. And a warm male voice, Liam Reed, the Windhowl beta who had once pursued her, the man Arthur had crushed with his alpha power back then. A sharp, bitter twinge of possessive jealousy flared in his chest. "What is it?" Her voice was calm. Empty. Like she was talking to a stranger. Arthur swallowed hard, forcing down the bitter ache in his throat. He softened his voice, speaking like he was giving her a gift. "Kelly hasn't fully recovered. Single parenthood is not easy, you can't handle Kelly's recovery alone. Come back. You and Kelly can have the master bedroom. And I shall never broach the topic of severing our mate bond ever again." A short silence. Then a soft, mocking laugh. "You've got it wrong, Arthur." Her voice was cold and clear, each word cutting into him. "This is not some impulsive runaway stunt. This is permanent. I'm already filling out the paperwork to move to the human world. No alphas. No Lunas. There are no rigid hierarchical rules that force people to yield to others. There, Kelly can eat as many deer legs as she wants. No one has to tiptoe around cruel family dynamics. And no one will call her mother a bad woman. How dare you? Arthur shot to his feet, his voice rising with panic. His alpha power spilled out uncontrollably. You're my bonded mate. This is not your choice to make. Mate? She said the word lightly, like it meant nothing. And that lightness crushed his pride more than any scream ever could. You mean the title you could cut any time you felt like it? The one that let you throw me out whenever you wanted? Arthur, I discarded that empty title long ago without a second thought. She hung up. A moment later, Arthur's communicator buzzed. An official formal dispatch issued by the Pack Council. Urgent notice, Luna position vacancy and candidate nomination, Blood Moon Pack. His hand shook as he opened the file. His eyes locked onto the list. Under proposed new Luna, one name was written clearly. Grace Hale. No, Arthur sank into his chair, a cold dread washed over his entire body. He had thought he was offering her a kindness. Letting her come back. Giving her everything he could. He never realized she had stopped wanting any of it long ago. And that home, the one he had broken for the 99th time, she had already buried that chapter of their life for good. Arthur panicked completely. He forgot about meetings, about James's injury, even about the pressure from the Pack Council. He bolted out of the manor in a blind panic, started his car, and sped toward Windhowl Pack. He had to see her. He had to. But at the border checkpoint, two fully armed guards stopped him cold. Alpha Arthur, stop right there, the lead guard said, his face blank. You are not welcome on Windhowl land. Move aside. Arthur's blazed with raw frenzy. His alpha power exploded outward. I need to see Rebecca. I'm her bonded mate. Former mate, the guard corrected calmly, raising his weapon. Rebecca has officially severed all ties and broken off all relations with you. If you try to cross, we will regard it as an act of open hostility. Arthur froze. Every last ounce of his resolve faded away. He stared at the peaceful forest just across the border. He knew Rebecca was in there somewhere with Kelly. Maybe laughing. Maybe finally enjoying the peace she never had with him. And he was locked out forever. His communicator buzzed wildly. It was Michelle with an urgent message, Arthur. Where are you? The council has approved the nomination. Grace is about to be named the new Luna. You must return at once to put a stop to this. Arthur looked at the closed border of Windhowl Pack. Then he looked down at his screen, at the name Grace flashing back at him. On one side, a love etched deep in his soul, lost beyond repair. On the other hand, Pack order and his son's future. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what it meant to be destroyed. Arthur never crossed the border. Like a lone, forsaken wolf, he sat in his car all night. The next morning, a text came from an unknown number with just one line, I'm at the Dawnlight Cafe in Moonstream Valley. You have 10 minutes. Arthur drove there like a madman. Sunlight filled the cozy cafe. By the window, Rebecca wore a soft beige sweater, cutting up eggs for Kelly. The wariness and submission she always had in Blood Moon were gone. In their place was a relaxed, genuine happiness. Arthur had never seen her like this. He pushed open the door. The wind chimes jingled. Kelly looked up at him, but didn't call him Dad. She just pressed closer to her mother and clung fast to the hem of her mother's sweater. Something sharp stabbed Arthur's chest. Rebecca, his throat went rough and dry. 1,000 apologies sat on his tongue, but all words felt hollow and meaningless. He pulled out a box. Inside was a glowing necklace. This is made from Dawnlight Cafe. It can heal a young wolf spirit. I brought it for Kelly. Rebecca didn't even glance at it. She wiped egg off Kelly's chin, her voice calm as if she were talking about the weather. Kelly's wolf spirit is already healed. The Windhowl elders nurtured and mended her wolf spirit. She doesn't need that. All she ever needed was a heart that wouldn't inflict casual harm on her. Arthur's hand hung in the air. Then he lowered it. Name anything you wish, he begged. And I will grant it without hesitation. Pack power. Money. Status. I'll even kick Grace out. Just come back. I'll be your alpha again, and Kelly will always be my most cherished little one. It's too late, Arthur. Rebecca looked up. Her eyes were clear and cold. The moment you cut our bond for the 99th time, I stopped being your Luna. The day you let James call her a bad woman, Kelly stopped being your daughter. She stood and took Kelly's hand. We're not your property anymore. We're Rebecca and Kelly. Free. Where will you go? Arthur shot up, his chair scraping the floor. The human world. Rebecca smiled. No alphas. No rankings. Kelly can go to a good school. No rigid hierarchy, no forced deference to others. She can eat as many deer legs as she wants. Arthur watched them walk away. The woman he had once treated as nothing stood tall now, carrying a pride he could never touch again. He opened his mouth to call them back. But his words died on his lips. This time, no matter how much he called, that mild-tempered woman would never turn around again. 3 years later. Things hadn't gone well for Blood Moon Pack. Arthur never married Grace. After Rebecca left, the pack's luck turned bad. One hunt failed after another. Pack members grew angry at their leaders. Grace had big ambitions but couldn't back them up. The pack crumbled from within. In the end, she left Blood Moon with James to find something better. Arthur became a good alpha, but a cold one. He never took another mate. He even got rid of the rule that said the Luna had to live in the main house. The big manor sat empty most of the time. He lived alone in his study. Sometimes he made the drive to Moonstream Valley, that little town, and stood across the street from a small diner called the Deer Haunch Diner. Through the bright window, he could always see her. Rebecca was no longer the meek Luna who had once waited on everyone hand and foot. She wore crisp business clothes and ran her shop with a bright, easy smile. And Kelly, that timid little girl, now raced around the diner in pretty dresses, happily tearing into chunks of deer meat with grease smeared across her face. She had done it. In a world without him, they were happier than they had ever been. One day, Kelly came out to take the trash and saw Arthur standing by the road. The girl stopped. She tilted her head and looked at him for a moment. Arthur's heart pounded. He reached out to touch her hair, the way he used to. But Kelly just nodded. Polite but distant. In a calm, grown-up voice, she said, "Excuse me, sir. You're blocking my path." At that moment, Arthur understood. He would spend the rest of his life living in the shadow of that 99th broken bond. And Rebecca and Kelly? They were finally living a life of true freedom and peace they had always wanted. The one where they could eat all the deer legs they liked.
This is Listening Novel. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed today's story, please like and subscribe for more stories, and stay tuned for what's next.